What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we're going to be upgrading the animated army precon deck on an extreme budget. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up and you'll be supporting the channel. Additionally, you can become a patron. Shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome and Irrelevant, you guys rock. Now before we get into the precon upgrade, I did want to mention I've already built a non-budget version of this guy, so I'll leave the link right here. This deck's capable of casting its entire library using our commander's ability and some untap effects. It's kind of insane, so if you want to check that out for more upgrade ideas, you can do that after this video. Now let's get into what we added. The first thing I realized about the precon is they are relying very heavily on the card advantage our commander gives us, but there's not a huge density of 4 CMC artifacts and enchantments, or the density isn't where I liked it, so we're going to up that up, and there's not a lot of protection for our commander, so we're going to add more protection for our commander as well since he's so vital to this strategy. Another thing I'm going to do when adding these 4 CMC artifacts and enchantments is I'm going to make sure that half of them add mana to our mana pool, just some high CMC mana rocks, right? Because whenever you're building a deck with a bunch of high CMC permanents, it's going to be hard to cast everything because everything has a higher average CMC. So making them mana rocks is going to make this deck a lot more easy, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to cast these high CMC spells, and it's going to make the deck function a lot smoother overall. Another thing we're going to be adding to this deck is Navindrel's Disc. This is probably one of the best things you can add to this deck because a lot of these artifacts that tap and are essentially board wipes sacrifice themselves. But this one was made such a long time ago, they didn't add that to the card, and this just says, hey, tap it, destroy all artifacts, enchantments, and creatures, and then they're assuming you're going to destroy Navindrel's Disc in the process, right? But our commander gives Navindrel's Disc indestructible, so we can board wipe essentially every turn. Now, we do lose our commander in the process, but all of these mana rocks are going to make him easily recastable, and then we are adding asceticism to the deck as well. So with asceticism, we can actually regenerate our commander and make sure he doesn't die. This is going to allow us to board wipe the board every single turn while we beat our opponents in the face. Another super impactful card that we're adding to this deck is Molten Echoes. Again, this is probably one of the best cards you could make as an upgrade. It is a little bit more expensive than our other upgrades, but it's so good it's worth including. This is basically going to double up on all of our artifacts and enchantments that are above 4 CMC, since again they'll enter in as elementals. So all of those mana rocks are going to get doubled up, giving us more mana, and then additionally all of our damage doublers are going to get doubled up, giving us quadruple damage. It's not going to be okay, and then at the end of the day, it's just doubling up the amount of creatures we're smacking our opponents with, so it's going to be useful to get added card advantage. So with that all being said, let's get into the rest of this precon upgrade. One last thing, we're not going to go over the cuts in this video, but I leave all of the cuts in the moxfield link, so make sure you open the moxfield link into the description down below. Follow, right? Don't forget that. And then go ahead and sort by tags. When you sort by tags, it's going to sort all the cards I cut and all of the cards I added to make the changes to the overall deck. I hope that helps. The first thing we're adding to this deck is more 4 CMC ramp with Stone Speaker Crystal, Sisay's Ring, Golem's Eye, and Ichor Elixir. This is just going to allow us to get more creatures to hit our opponents with, while also adding more mana to our board. Blinkmoth Urn is kind of messed up here. It says at the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, if Blinkmoth Urn is untapped, that player gets to add a generic for each artifact they control. But notably, we're going to be attacking with this. So on our opponent's turns, it's going to be tapped, and on our turn, it's going to be untapped. This makes it to where we're the only ones that are going to benefit from the upside. Frontier Siege is another 4 CMC enchantment that's just going to add 2 mana at the beginning of each of our main phases, so that's going to be useful. Nature's Will is an enchantment that's going to cause us to tap our opponent's lands while untapping all of our lands, so that's going to shut off their interaction, and it's just going to allow us to have a pseudo extra turn. This is kind of a Sword of Feast and Famine on an enchantment. Flame Shadow Conjuring and Molten Echoes are just going to double up on all of those artifacts and enchantments entering the battlefield. Flame Shadow Conjuring does require us to pay for it, but it's still such a good ability that it's going to be worth it. Navindrel's Disc and Asceticism makes a broken combo, as said in the beginning of the video. This makes it to where we can wipe the board indefinitely every turn while regenerating our commander. So it's basically not going to touch our side of the board at all, and it's going to hose our opponents over. Magmatic Galleon seems solid here. It's a little bit of removal removal, and then additionally there's a lot of different ways in the deck to deal excess non-combat damage, so just getting a treasure token off of that whenever we're doing that is just going to be some added value to the deck. Gimli's Might, for instance, not only is this a 4 CMC enchantment, but it's pretty easy to get to 8 power in this deck, and now we're able to remove our opponent's key creatures while also getting rid of some blockers. Ether Flash seems kind of solid here. This doesn't affect a large portion of our deck, and it's going to completely hose over our opponent's creature token strategies. Rage Reflection seemed solid here. There's already a card in the deck that gives other creatures double strike, so I figured another one would be solid. It's just going to double up on your card advantage while additionally doubling up on your actual damage. Glorious Sunrise is going to be very flexible here. It can be more mana, it can go ahead and give all your creatures trample, and it can draw you cards while gaining you life. It kind of does a little bit of everything at a not so great rate, but the fact that it's a creature here is just going to add to its utility, and that's why it makes the cut. The Flux seemed pretty solid as well. It's kind of like a Phyrexian Arena in red that kills something when it enters the battlefield, and then additionally here it is a creature that can draw us even more cards, so it kind of draws us 2 cards a turn if you want to think about it like that. Shared Animosity solid here. Remember, all of our creatures are elementals, so this card really abuses that. Outcaster Trailblazer is just going to draw us a card whenever we cast a 4 CMC artifact or enchantment, since it will enter in and it will be a creature with above 4 power. Orin Frostfang is just going to double up on our card advantage, not to mention it does give all attacking creatures Death Touch, so why would you block a 4/4 that has Death Touch and Indestructible? It's just going to guarantee that you get those 2 cards whenever you're attacking with these enchantments, and that's going to give you a ton of value. Return of the Wild Speaker seems solid here. It can kind of be a game ender, and then additionally it can just draw you a ton of cards. Death Leaper Terror Weapon, now that's a mouthful, but it basically gives all creatures that entered the battlefield this turn double strike. So again, we're going to double up on our card advantage, and then additionally all of our artifacts and enchantments that enter the battlefield have haste, so they can instantly attack. It's just going to be kind of perfect in the deck. Leafkin Avenger taps for mana equal to the amount of creatures you have with power 4 or greater, which is going to be basically our entire board. Leyline Immersion is a little bit of protection for our commander while allowing him to tap for 5 mana, so that's going to be very useful. Canopy Covers and Swiftfoot Boots are my protection pieces of choice for these budget decks that people love building, and Nara seemed solid here. It's probably not the best slot in here, but I just wanted another way to give our commander indestructible because of our Chain Reaction, our Blasphemous Axe, and our Navendrel's Discs we have in the deck. It's not too hard to recast him because he's only 3 mana, but if we can go ahead and avoid recasting him, that's just going to help us out. Rose Cutthroat Raider, this is kind of like a Jeska's Will but on a creature. We're trying to deal combat damage to our players, and then whenever we're doing that, we can generate up to 3 junk tokens a turn, and that's going to essentially draw us 3 cards while adding 3 cards to our mana pool. Kind of crazy. Grim Reaper's Sprint is just a solid extra combat spell that untaps all our creatures, and if something died this turn, it's going to lower the cost of this and make it really easy to cast. Additionally, we're throwing Chain Reaction in the deck as another board wipe that's damage based that kind of protects our board while hosing over our opponents. That's going to do it for the upgrades, guys. Again, if you want a non-budget version, I will link it here. You can go check that out. I thought it was a pretty cool build around. This guy is a very fun commander overall. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. With that being said, I would like to shout out my patrons, Newsome, Excessum, Prater, Chicken Salad, Irrelevant. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you guys in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.